My husband's parents decided that our child will live with them for better education. Hi everyone, I need to vent because this situation is just killing me, and I don't know how to live with it anymore. I can't sleep properly, I constantly think about it, and I feel trapped. I'm 29 years old, a woman living in Boston, Massachusetts, in a 3-room apartment in the Back Bay area, which my husband and I rent. I work as a teacher for elementary school classes in a local school. I love my job because I adore children, but the salary is not high, about $60K per year, plus expenses for childcare. My husband and I are trying to save for a house, but with a mortgage in Boston, it's hard. I grew up in a small town in New Hampshire in a simple family. Mom worked in a store, dad was a builder, and I've always been independent. Finished college, moved to the city for work. I'm an introvert. I love quiet evenings with a book or walks in the park, and I try to balance work with family. Right now, I'm on maternity leave, but I plan to return in a couple of months. My husband, Alex, not his real name, 31 years old, works as an engineer in a tech company in downtown Boston, salary $120K, which keeps us afloat. We met 5 years ago at a friend's party, got married 3 years ago. He's kind, supportive, but sometimes passive in conflicts, especially with his parents. He grew up in a wealthy family in the suburbs of Boston. Father is a businessman, mother is a homemaker, and they were always involved in his life. We have a son, Ethan. He's 2 years old, a cute, active little one who loves playing with cars and reading books. Ethan is our everything. We planned him, I was thrilled with the pregnancy, and we try to give him the best. He goes to a local daycare half-day, and my husband and I take turns picking him up. Life was normal: work, dinners together, weekends in the park, or trips to Alex's parents. And now about Alex's parents, my father-in-law and mother-in-law, let's call them Richard and Janet. They're both 60, live in a big house in Newton, a suburb of Boston where everything is perfect: private schools, pool, clubs. Richard owns a small real estate company, Janet does charity work. They were always involved in our life, helped with the wedding, sent gifts to Ethan, invited us for holidays. But over time, I noticed they are controlling, commented on my job, why not find something better? Our apartment, too cramped for a child, and hinted that we don't care about Ethan's education. They paid for a private daycare that we couldn't afford, and I was grateful, but it created dependency. The essence started 2 months ago. We went to them for the weekend, and at dinner they suddenly said, "We think Ethan would be better off living with us for better education." They explained that in their area there are top schools, clubs, tutors, and in Boston he won't get the same. They proposed that Ethan live with them from Monday to Friday, and we pick him up on weekends like for his good. I was shocked. Ethan is 2 years old, he needs parents, not better education at this age. Alex was silent, I said it was absurd, and we left. But they didn't back down, called Alex, sent articles about elite schools, and said we are selfish, thinking only about ourselves. A week ago, everything escalated. They came to us without warning, brought toys for Ethan, and over coffee said, "If you don't agree, we'll sue for custody and deprivation of your rights." They accused us of unstable environment, my low-paid job, our cramped apartment, and that we don't care about Ethan's future. They said they have money for lawyers and evidence that we are inadequate parents, supposedly because I work, and Alex spends many hours at the office. I barely held back, said it was blackmail, and asked them to leave. Alex supported me, but later confessed that his parents are pressuring him, saying they'll cut off financial help. They sometimes help with daycare. Now I'm in panic. Ethan is our child, we are good parents, he's happy, but the in-laws have money and connections. I checked online. In Massachusetts, deprivation of rights is an extreme measure for abuse or neglect, but they can sue for custody as grandparents if they prove we are incapable. Alex is angry at them but doesn't break relations, says they're bluffing. We argue about it. I want to forbid them from seeing Ethan. He says don't escalate. I barely hold on at work, constantly think about it. Has anyone faced something similar? How to protect rights? Should I go to a lawyer? I'll be grateful for advice. Update 1. 2 weeks after the original post, thanks everyone for the comments and support on my first post. I didn't expect such a wave of responses, and your stories about similar family conflicts with in-laws gave me strength not to sit idle. Many of you advised to immediately contact a lawyer and not ignore the threats, because in Massachusetts such cases can escalate. I did just that, and here's what happened in these 2 weeks. Sorry if the post is long, but there are many details, and I want to lay it all out to sort it out in my head. First, about the situation with the in-laws. After their visit with threats, my husband and I decided to limit contact. We didn't answer calls for a couple of days, but they didn't back down. Janet sent a message. "We're worried about Ethan, let's talk nicely." Richard called Alex at work, said, "If you don't agree, we'll sue, we have evidence that you don't provide him the best." Alex is angry but tries to calm. "They're bluffing, parents always say that." "But I don't believe they're rich, have a lawyer in the family, Richard's uncle is a family law attorney, and I'm afraid they're serious." We argue about it. I want to forbid them from seeing Ethan. Alex says don't escalate their grandparents. He talked to them on the phone yesterday. They repeated that for Ethan's education, and that our apartment is not suitable for a child, because it's cramped and in a city with bad ecology. Alex told them we won't agree, and they replied, "Then see you in court." I didn't wait and found a lawyer through a friend's recommendation. She suggested a family law specialist in Boston. The consultation cost $200 first hour, and my husband and I went together. The lawyer explained that threats of deprivation of rights are extreme. In Massachusetts, it's possible only for serious violations, like abuse, neglect, or danger to the child. In-laws as grandparents can sue for guardianship, grandparent visitation, or custody. But for custody, they need to prove we are unfit parents. For example, alcohol, drugs, or ignoring the child. We have nothing like that. We are good parents. Ethan is happy, vaccinated, goes to daycare. We work stably. The lawyer said their arguments are weak. Better education is not a basis for deprivation of rights, and courts favor biological parents. But if they sue, it will be stress. Hearings, social services evaluation, possible visits. Cost, $5,000 $1,000 per case if it drags on. He advised to document everything, messages, calls, their visits, to show that they're pressuring. We started documenting. I saved screenshots of messages. Alex recorded the last call in Massachusetts aloud with one side. We also wrote them an official letter through the lawyer, $300, said we don't agree with their plan and asked to stop threats because it harms Ethan. They replied, "We're doing this for our grandson, you don't understand." So far no court, but I'm tense, check mail every day, afraid of summons. Emotionally, it's exhausting. I can't play normally with Ethan, constantly think what will happen if they take him. Ethan notices, he's become more capricious, asks about grandma. My husband and I argue more often. He says, "Don't panic prematurely." I say your parents are going crazy. We started going to couples therapy, $150 per session, once a week to discuss how to stick together. The therapist says it's classic control from in-laws and advises Alex to set boundaries. He's trying, but it's hard for him because he grew up under their influence. At work I hold on. School started, I returned from maternity leave but took a flexible schedule to be with Ethan. Boss is understanding, but I get distracted. One lesson went wrong because I was thinking about it. Financially pressing, lawyer, therapy, already $1,000 and we cut expenses. Fewer restaurants, more cooking at home. Ethan in daycare, but in-laws stopped paying, said, "If not with us, then yourselves." We found a cheaper option, $800 per month, but it hit the budget. Friends and my family support. Mom calls every day, says, "Hold on, they have no right." Friends advise not to let in-laws see Ethan, and we're doing that, blocked visits until they stop threats. What's next? Lawyer says wait if they sue, but prepare, gather evidence of our parenting, medical records, photos, testimonies from daycare. We updated the will to specify guardians in case of anything. I hope they're bluffing, but ready to fight. Thanks for the advice. Someone wrote about grandparents, rights in Massachusetts, and I checked. They can sue for visitation, but not custody without grounds. If you have experience with such cases, right? We'll update when there's progress. Update 2. A month after the previous update, in-laws sued for custody, and now everything has turned into a real nightmare. Hi everyone who followed my story. Thanks for all the messages, advice, and words of support from the previous post and update. You can't imagine how much it helped me hold on, because the last weeks were just hell. Many of you wrote that in-laws are likely bluffing, but unfortunately, it turned out not to be so. They really went further and sued for custody over Ethan, and now we're drawn into a legal battle that's sucking all our strength, time, and money. I'm writing this update late at night because I can't sleep. Ethan is sleeping in his room, and I'm sitting with a cup of tea trying not to cry. This will be long because there are so many details, and I want to lay it all out to sort it out in my head and maybe get more advice. If you're in a similar situation, hold on, it's awful, but we're fighting. First, about how everything escalated. After our letter through the lawyer, as I wrote in the previous update, the in-laws went silent for a couple of days, and my husband and I already thought they backed down. But no, a week after that letter, we received a court summons. They filed a petition for grandparents' visitation rights with elements of request for temporary custody, arguing that we are unable to provide a proper environment for the child. In the lawsuit, they wrote a bunch of lies, that our apartment is cramped and dangerous. Although it's a standard 3-room in a good area, with a balcony and park nearby, that my job as a teacher is unstable because salary is low and I'm too busy to pay attention to my son, that Alex works overtime and doesn't participate in upbringing, and that Ethan needs better education and stability, which they can provide in their big house with private schools. They even added evidence. Photos of our apartment. How did they get them? Probably from Alex's social media. My Facebook posts about fatigue from work. I wrote something like hard day at school but love kids, and testimonies from their family friend who supposedly saw Ethan crying because of noise in the city. It's all twisted. Ethan cried because he was tired after a walk, not because of dangerous environment. My husband and I were shocked. I cried the whole evening, imagining them taking Ethan. Alex finally got really angry, called his parents, and yelled, "You're going crazy. This is our son, not your toy." Richard replied coldly, "We're doing this for Ethan. You don't understand what's best for him." Janet added, "We love him more than you because we're ready to give him everything." Alex hung up and said he doesn't want to talk to them anymore. But now we're in court, and it's no joke. We immediately went to our lawyer, the same one from the first consultation. He said that in Massachusetts, grandparents' rights are limited. They can get visitation, right to see, if they prove it's in the child's interest and that breaking relations harms her. For custody, more is needed. Prove we are unfit parents, i.e. dangerous or negligent. Our arguments are strong. We have a stable family, Ethan is healthy, we have medical records from pediatrician, everything okay, daycare praises us as parents, and we have no problems with law or abuse. The lawyer advised to gather more evidence. Letters from the school where I work, colleagues will write that I'm a great mom, family moments photos, financial reports to show were provided, though not rich like in-laws, and even evaluation from social worker, costs $500 but worth it. We also filed a counterclaim for restraining order to forbid in-laws from approaching Ethan without our permission, arguing emotional pressure. The first hearing was 2 weeks ago. It was awful. Court in downtown Boston, my husband and I dressed formally, left Ethan with my friend, didn't want him to see this. In-laws came with their attorney, Richard's uncle, as I thought, looked confident. Janet cried, telling the judge that we just want the best for our grandson, they don't let us see him. Richard added, "Boston has high crime rate, and in our area, top schools, pool, everything for development." Their attorney showed evidence. Article about schools in Boston, as if everything is bad there, our financial data, how did they get it? Maybe through Alex earlier, and even photos of Ethan in our apartment where the room looks cramped. Our lawyer counterattacked, showed medical records, letters from daycare, parents active and loving, and our happy family photos. The judge, middle-aged woman, said the case needs investigation, appointed home study, home evaluation by social services for both sides. This means a social worker will come to us and to in-laws, check conditions, talk to us and maybe to Ethan, though he's 2, it will be just observation. Cost for us $1,000 plus stress. Hearing postponed for a month. Emotionally, it's killing. I'm constantly anxious. What if the social worker sees our apartment as cramped? It's normal 3 rooms, children's with toys, kitchen, balcony, but compared to their mansion, we cleaned everything perfectly, bought new toys, $200, and I took leave to be with Ethan. But at nights I cry, afraid to lose my son. Ethan feels the tension, started eating less, clings to me more. My husband and I try to hold on but argue. He blames parents but says maybe compromise, more visits. I say no, they want control. Therapist helps, but sessions became weekly, $600 per month. Financially pressing. Lawyer already $3,000 plus expenses. We canceled the vacation we planned and cut food outside. My family supports. Mom came for a week, helped with Ethan, said fight, they're wrong. Friends advise not to give up. In-laws try to pressure. Janet sent gifts to Ethan by mail we didn't open, Richard called Alex. Think about your son, we can give him everything. Alex blocked them, but it's painful. He misses his parents, says they weren't like this before. I think it's because of Ethan, first grandson, and they want to fix our life to their model. What's next? Waiting for home study in a week, social worker will come to us, check apartment, talk about routine. Lawyer says we're in a strong position because no real grounds for custody, but if in-laws prove harm from break, because we limited contact, they might get visitation. We're preparing, gathered letters from neighbors, great family, from school, responsible parents. If anyone has experience with home study in Massachusetts, write what to expect. Can in-laws really win? We'll update after the visit. Update 3. 3 months after the previous court ended, we won, but the family fell apart forever. Hi, Reddit. This is the last update to my story. Thanks to everyone who supported me through comments, PMs, and advice. Your words about not giving up and documenting everything really saved the situation. In these 3 months, everything changed dramatically. We went through court hell, but in the end in-laws backed down, but our relations with them are ruined forever. Life is now different. My husband and I are stronger, but with scars, and I'm trying to move on. This will be long because there are many emotions and details, but I want to close this chapter and maybe help others in similar situations. If you're in a family war for a child, hold on, it's exhausting, but worth fighting. First, about the home study, as I promised. The social worker, woman about 40, pleasant but professional, came a week after the previous update. We prepared. Apartment shown, I spent $150 on cleaning service. Ethan in his best clothes, we showed routine, breakfast, games, walk in the park. She observed for 2 hours, talked to us about work, finances, upbringing. Asked about in-laws, we showed messages with threats, explained why we limited contact. She checked children's room, everything safe, toys, books, kitchen, food and fridge, and even neighbors, we asked them to confirm we're a quiet family. The report was positive. Stable, loving environment, parents involved, child happy. In-laws also had home study, their house is perfect, but the worker noted that they too focus on material, not emotional well-being. Then hearings, 2 months of agony. First, in-laws with attorney showed evidence, articles about schools in Boston, as if everything bad there, our finances they got through Alex earlier. He denies, and testimonies from friends, their acquaintances who said we're too busy. Janet cried. We want only the best for Ethan, they don't let us see him. Richard added. Boston dangerous, our school top. Our lawyer counterattacked, showed home study, medical records, Ethan healthy, letters from daycare and school, parents great, and our happy family photos. He accused in-laws of pressure and blackmail, showed messages. Judge appointed guardian ad litem, independent representative for the child. It cost $2,000 but mandatory. Guardian woman psychologist observed us for a week, came home, saw how we play with Ethan, eat, walk. Talked to us separately, I told about fear of losing son, Alex about parents' pressure. She visited in-laws, they showed house, pool, but guardian noted that they too controlling, focus on status. Report. Parents provide stable environment, break with grandparents' harms, but not critically, visitation possible, but not custody. Final hearing a month ago, judge rejected custody, no grounds to consider parents unfit, but appointed visitation. In-laws can see Ethan once a week for 2 hours supervised at our home, and once a month on weekends if we agree. We appealed, but lawyer said that in Massachusetts grandparents have rights if break harms child. In-laws won visitation, but not custody, judge warned them not to pressure, otherwise cancel. Emotionally, it ruined. I cried after court because felt defeat though victory. Ethan saw in-laws a couple times. They bring gifts, expensive toys, $500 each time, but I control, no talks about moving. Alex broke with parents, said, you cross the line and doesn't respond. They try through him, but he blocks. My husband and I are closer. Therapy helped, we're planning child 2 to show we're strong. Financially, $8,000 for lawyer, but in-laws paid part of fine for frivolous lawsuit, $2,000. We're saving for a house, maybe move to suburbs. My family celebrates, mom said you won. Friends advised to monitor visitation. In-laws now nice, but I don't trust, Janet writes. Let's forget and be family. No, thanks. Life goes on, Ethan happy, we walk in park, plan trip to New Hampshire. This is the end of the nightmare, but with a lesson, boundaries key. If anyone in court for custody, prepare evidence and don't give up. Thanks, Reddit, you were my salvation. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new stories.